program running just beneath the surface of a company that publicly swore off the whole business. His genius, one biographer noted, lay in following the letter of the rules while getting away with as much high-performance mischief as humanly possible. There's a story that captures this perfectly, and it's the true seed of the L-88. In 1965, Duntov wanted to test a monstrous new 427 cubic inch racing engine in real competition. The corporation, of course, was not supposed to be doing any such thing, so Duntov physically smuggled a prototype engine out of Chevrolet's experimental department in Warren, Michigan, and quietly routed it to a privateer's Corvette for the Sebring Endurance race. The most important engine in this story began its life as contraband, sneaked out a back door by the very man Chevrolet employed to build it. So when the time came to turn that race engine into something a customer could technically order, Duntov already knew the game. He needed to build a track weapon without ever calling it one. That maneuver became the L-88. Start with the foundation. The L-88 was based on Chevrolet's 427 cubic inch big block V8, a cast iron monster that already powered the brawnier Corvettes of the era. But Duntov and his engineers didn't want brawny, they wanted lethal. So they took that 427 and rebuilt its character from the inside out. They fitted aluminum cylinder heads to shed weight off the front of the car. They specified a brutal, long-duration camshaft that made the engine cough and stumble at idle, but breathe like a hurricane at high RPM. They bolted on an enormous Holley carburetor and stripped away the niceties that street-going engines carried. And then they did the thing that defined the entire package. They raised the compression ratio to a staggering 12.5 to 1. That number deserves a moment because it explains everything that follows. Compression is the measure of how tightly the engine squeezes the fuel and air before ignition, and the tighter the squeeze, the more violent the power. But there's a catch that turns out to be the hinge of this whole story. An engine squeezing that hard will tear itself apart on ordinary gasoline. It detonates, it knocks, it hammers its own pistons toward an early grave. To survive 12.5 to 1, the L-88 demanded fuel rated at 103 octane. Not premium, not high test. A racing-grade fuel that, in 1967, you simply could not find at the corner filling station across most of the country. Think about what that means. Chevrolet built an engine that the majority of its own customers physically could not feed. Fill an L-88 with the best pump gas most towns offered, and you didn't get a thrilling sports car. You got a temperamental, hard-starting machine threatening to grenade itself on the next hard pull. That wasn't a flaw. That was the filter. The fuel requirement alone screened out anyone who wasn't deadly serious. Some parts of the country had so little 103-octane fuel available that simply owning the car was impractical, and that scarcity quietly throttled sales all on its own. But Chevrolet wasn't finished building walls around this engine. The next wall was the one they wrote down on paper. Here is where the deception becomes deliberate. When Chevrolet published the L-88's official output, they listed it at 430 horsepower. They listed the torque at 460 pound-feet. Clean, conservative, unremarkable numbers for a big block of that size, the sort of figures that wouldn't make anyone in an insurance office or a government building look up from their desk. Now hold those figures against the next fact. There was another 427 in the Corvette lineup that year, a fierce engine in its own right called the L-71, and Chevrolet rated that one at 435 horsepower. Read that again. The factory claimed its all-out, race-bred, aluminum-headed, sky-high compression L-88 made 5 horsepower less than the engine sitting one rung below it on the order sheet. The hottest thing they built was, officially, not even the hottest thing you could buy. It was absurd on its face, and it was absurd on purpose, because the real output of the L-88 wasn't 430 horsepower. Decades